Welcome viewers to the PI show. Tonight we've got a very interesting show about the Snell in the bottle. But before we go to that, I'd just like to introduce one of our special guests, which is Beth Alston, who's a recent law graduate and a trainee lawyer.
That's right.
And on my right I've got Marty Smith, who's a long-term serving PI show
guest presenter.
That'll do, yeah. But the first thing we're going to discuss is this story about this fellow that was driving in Canberra.
Yes.
And he killed a husband and wife and young child.
Yeah, that's the
And
media.
the sad thing about this case is that this fellow had a history of driving offences from about the age of 18. He'd been expelled from school. He had a troubled background. And the thing about this particular fellow is that he had a string of driving convictions and whatever. He was alcoholised, and on a particular night in question, he's being chased by the police in Canberra. They suspended the chase because they deemed it to be dangerous. Shortly thereafter, he's crashed into this family and killed the occupants, including himself. He died a short time thereafter. Marty, this is unbelievable. This is something we've been talking about, and it's on the radio and all sorts of things.
Absolute tragedy. Only one way to describe it. But you wonder, is there anything else that could have been done? I know there's guidelines in Victoria. I don't know in Canberra about speed chases, etc., by the police. At what stage do they get involved? At what stage do they pull up? The guidelines in Victoria are very well used. That is that the policeman in the chase is to keep the person on the other end of the radio informed and says if he's doing X speed, then all of a sudden the person says, OK, stop, no more.
Martin, Beth, the two things that really concern me about this particular story is one, how do you stop this?
Yep.
Because you've got so many, I mean, he'd been to jail a couple of times for very short stints. I mean, what do? You lock him up for longer periods, or do you never to be on the road again? What do you do with these people? Because, I mean, there was an interesting story on the radio the other morning by Eddie McGuire, the Triple M team, talking about, they were speaking to a kid, they said to him, "Are you still going to hoon around?" He said, "Yes." What do you do with these people?
Yeah, it's so topical. The other day they had another one, a fellow doing burnouts in the McDonald's car park with his fiancée or whatever it was. She was pregnant and she had an infant in the back. Where does the stupidity start and stop? It's such a difficult issue. What do? Put an ankle bracelet on them and say we're following you with a GPS every moment that you move? Who knows? It's a political topic, but the sadness is if something goes wrong, there's death.
And the sad thing about it is that there's three siblings left behind.
Yep.
They've obviously got entitlements to, I don't know, no-fault dependency benefits, I would have thought, and possibly common law benefits.
Correct.
But sadly, you know, the family's been destroyed.
If you extrapolate those facts into Victoria, which is of interest to the viewers, the siblings that are left behind may have a dependency claim, as you said. They may have a Wrongs Act claim to be paid by a TAC because there'd be obviously no problem establishing negligence on behalf of the driver.
Anyway, we're going to move on from this sad case and on to the Snell in the bottle case. This is that famous Donoghue and Stevenson case. That is the one that started the common law doctrine of negligence as we know it today. Beth, you know the facts of this, having studied it in torts not long ago. Tell us a bit more about it.
Well, it's one of the first cases that we learn about in law school, as it's a foundation case for the law of negligence. I'll just give a quick rundown of the facts. This is back in 1928. Miss Donoghue was with a friend going to the Well Meadow Cafe.
Male, female?
We're not actually sure. The judgment says that it's female, but it has been said that this is out of respect and out of to preserve her dignity, because she might have been having an affair with this person. But that's speculation.
Oh, okay.
But so Miss Donoghue and this friend were going into a cafe. The friend bought a ginger beer and a tumbler with some ice cream in it, gave it to Miss Donoghue. The ginger beer was in the tumbler. She had a drink. She then poured the rest of the ginger beer into the tumbler, and it was an opaque bottle, so they couldn't see the contents. And it has been said that, well, it was the foundation of the case that a decomposed snail actually came out of the bottle.
And Mrs. Donoghue, was she Mrs. or Miss? I mean, I'm not sure. Was she separated?
She was separated from her
Was she?
husband.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
Well, Mrs. Donoghue apparently said she got gastroenteritis and she suffered psychologically as a result of this.
Yeah.
Well, Marty, why couldn't she just sue for breach of contract or something? What was the story there?
Well, that's exactly all she could have done in the law up until this case, which was decided eventually in 1932. Prior to 1932, there's a history of cases, one going back we call Winterbottom and Wright. That was a carriage, so we're talking about horse and carriage days, was manufactured negligently. And Mr Winterbottom, a stranger to its manufacture and to its sale, was injured. So in other words, in a contract you have two parties that come together. We understand I'll purchase this. That's the two parties to the contract. Isn't it interesting that in Mrs Donohue's case, the friend purchased the drink.
That's right.
Therefore, Mrs Donohue does not have a contract with the person who they bought it from. So up until the Donohue and Stevenson case, if you're a stranger, you don't have an entitlement to sue. Now, that can be extrapolated a little bit further. You know, what happens if you're a builder of a house and somebody, you're not talking about the occupier, a stranger comes in the house prior to 1932, if the ceiling falls in, you've got no rights. If you're selling a car in today's modern day, if you're selling it to a dealer, this is the contract, the dealer buys the car from the manufacturer, there's the contract between those two. If you then buy that faulty car, you would have had no rights, except for this case.
That's right.
But Beth, can I say this to you? I mean, this is a case where, you know, Mrs Donohue drank the contents of this ginger beer. But the thing is, there'd been many cases before that where people had purchased things and they were never covered by the law.
That's right. There was a few cases beforehand with mice found in bottles, and they were found to have no claim. So
yeah, I find that astounding because at the end of the day, a snail's a snail, but geez, mice are a lot, you know, more.
Scarier.
Yeah, scary, and also you'd think they carry a lot more diseases in them, things like that. I mean, let's be realistic. The French eat the snails, so
Yeah, that's right.
But then again, this was decomposed, so that takes it to another level.
But things changed with Lord Aitken, didn't they, Beth?
That's right. So Miss Donohue, she wanted to sue somebody. She was very shocked. She became sick. She took it all the way to the House of Lords.
What's the House of Lords?
The House of Lords is the highest court that you can take it to, so she appealed it and took it there. And Lord Aitken delivered the most famous judgment. He was actually from Australia.
He was born and bred in Brisbane.
In Brisbane, that's right. And his most famous statement is that you must take reasonable care to avoid acts or omissions which you can reasonably foresee would be likely to injure your neighbour.
It was the love thy neighbour principle.
That's right, but in law you have to be a little bit more conservative. So it's a do not injure your neighbour principle.
That's right. That's right. And Marty?
That's interesting because you're right what he says. He says take the love by neighbour principle, but in law it means that you must not injure your neighbour. That's basically what it means.
Look, we're going to have to go to an ad break, a sponsors break. So look, viewers, stay tuned. We'll be back shortly. Thank you.